Hi, sweeties. Thank you so much for staying home with me and cooking. Today we are making southern fried catfish. This is wild caught catfish, wild caught catfish. My dad catches them, cleans them, uh, takes the skin off, fillets them, and puts them in the freezer. So I had some in my freezer, put it in the refrigerator to thaw, and now we are having southern fried catfish for dinner alongside green beans smothered in onions and red rice with sausage. Whew, is a good one. Please subscribe to Sweet Savant. Hit that thumbs up, that notification bell. Now let's get into it. We're going to soak our wild caught catfish in salted water with some lemon juice, and that's to help draw out some of the gamey flavor of the wild caught catfish. If you've got farm raised catfish from the grocery store, you don't have to do this step. You can really just maybe soak your catfish fillets in a little buttermilk or a little regular milk with a little seasoning in it. But I find that soaking it for, even if it's just a half hour, in some salted lemon juice water draws out the gamey flavor. Now, some of these fillets are kind of thick, so when they are like a 1/4 inch thick, I like to cut them in half and make a thinner catfish fillet. You see, this is what I do to those thicker fillets. I just take my knife and cut it right down the middle just to get a thinner piece of fish. Now put some ice cubes on it to make sure it stays nice and cold. Let's get on to our green beans smothered in sweet onions. I prefer to use Vidalia onions when they are in season because they are so sweet and delicious. If you can't find them, look for sweet onions in the grocery store. This was a huge onion, so I just needed one. But I like lots of onions in this dish, so sometimes I'll use 2 onions or maybe even 3. And we're just gonna cut it in half and slice it into pretty thick slices. And then we're going to let them cook for a while and caramelize. Please remember to keep those fingers curled back and out of the way. Practice good knife skills. We don't want anybody cutting themselves while they're making these delicious recipes. So be careful and let's just get those onions cut up into slices. We've already got a pan on the stove over medium heat with a little bit of vegetable oil or canola oil, about a tablespoon or 2 in there. We'll get our onions in, some salt, some pepper, stir it around, and get those onions nicely coated in the oil. And I like to cover it and just leave it for a little while on low heat, and that breaks the onion down pretty quickly. Now it's time for some red rice in the Ninja Foodie. I have a recipe video for this already, so I will put the link right up there so you can click on that and see the full directions on how to make red rice in your Ninja Foodie. I'm using some smoked sausage. These are Roger Wood sausages made here in Georgia. We've got long grain rice that we will coat in the oil, and I didn't add any extra oil to the pot. This is just the oils that came out of the sausage as they were browning, and you want to coat and toast the rice in those oils. We have a can of diced tomatoes that we drained, but make sure you save the tomato juice. We'll go ahead and put those tomatoes, the diced tomatoes, in there, and we pressed out the liquid. And then we added enough water to we have 2 cups of rice, and we're going to use 2 1/4 cups of liquid, or about 2 1/3. You need much less liquid when you're cooking in a pressure cooker. And I like to add a little bit of Knorr chicken bouillon to that. I think it just ramps up the flavor. You can use chicken stock instead of water if you want to. And then we're going to put our pressure cook lid on, pressure cook that on high for just 3 minutes, and then we let it naturally release for 10 minutes. Now let's get back to those onions. Look how good they look. Great color. Now we'll add 3 cloves of garlic to that and saute that around just to soften the garlic for maybe a minute. And then we'll add our green beans. And I'm using frozen haricot vert. They're thin green beans. And we just really want them to defrost and, cook off some of that extra, the liquid that'll have in there. So we'll stir that around and cover it and let those green beans defrost. Back to the catfish. I took them out of the water and patted them dry. I'm going to use this packaged fish fry from a Louisiana fish fry. I usually make my own fish fry with masa harina. I'll show you that on my whiting recipe. I'll leave the link to that up there. We're going to first season the fish with a little salt, some garlic powder, and some cayenne, and just sprinkle that on there and massage it around. The fish fry is already seasoned. It's got salt in there. I like to put a little bit of heat. So you don't want to put too much salt on your fish, but I am a firm believer in seasoning at every stage. So season your fish, and then the fish fry is already seasoned. So we'll get that coated in our salt, our cayenne pepper, and our garlic powder, and then into a zip top bag with that Louisiana fish fry in it. Zatarain's fish fry is also really good. The store didn't have any, and if I used store-bought fish fry, I usually will grab the Zatarain's one, but the Louisiana worked out good as well. They're both very tasty, but yeah, I do prefer the Zatarain's. I just like the flavor of Zatarain's better. I love that sound of frying, the sizzle of the fish hitting the hot oil. And you do want your oil to be hot, about 365 degrees. If your oil is too cool, then your fish will absorb a lot of grease and will fall apart. Now, back to those green beans for a minute. They are just about done. They're hot all the way through, but there's still quite a bit of moisture left there. So we are going to continue to cook these with the lid off so that the moisture can evaporate. You taste it, see what it needs. It needs a little more salt. So we sprinkled a little more salt in there and stirred it up. And those green beans are done. Now we're doing our fish in batches. It goes very quickly when they're cut thin like this. So you really are just looking for them to be golden brown like this. We'll shake off a little bit of that excess oil and let it drain on paper towels or wire rack if you have one. Let's go see about that red rice in our Ninja Foodie. Loaded with sausage. Yeah, that is done. That is done and so delicious. And remember, I have the full recipe for this red rice. I usually add more stuff to it, but this time it's just the rice, the tomato, the sausage. Yum, delicious. But I'll put that recipe in a link at the end of the video. It's a good one. I had about 3 pounds of fish in total, and I cooked it in about 3 batches, and there was plenty of fish fry left over while I'm frying. So I'm going to just keep it in the Ziploc bag and put it in the refrigerator, and I can fry something else in it in a couple of days. But look at that fish. Beautifully golden brown. You don't want to overcrowd your pan when you're frying because that makes the temperature drop too far and the fish can fall apart. The coating can fall off if your temperature is too low. Dinner is done, folks. Grab you a plate. Let's get some of those green beans smothered in them onions. Our red rice is finished. And our fish, like I said, we cook it in batches. The last batch is done. Grab your plate, say your grace, and let's eat. And by the way, this fish is also delicious in fish tacos. Yes, fish tacos with fried catfish, flour tortillas. Make yourself a little coleslaw, just some shredded cabbage, some carrots, vinegar, mayonnaise, a little shredded onion. So good on top of your fish taco. That's another great meal. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to Sweet Savant. Hit that thumbs up, that notification bell. and have a delicious day. Oh, click on my face to subscribe.